I understand that I can follow the formula to raise my vibration and to begin to perceive things I don't currently perceive. I understand that I can use my imagination in regards to connecting with the hybrid children. This is more about going out underneath the stars with the intention of peaceful contact, much like what Stephen Greer is doing with his CE5 groups. I was with him for a weekend, not me personally, me and 500 other people were with him for a weekend in April. And many of the things, not many of the things, but some of the things that he did or taught us to do in order to participate or host a CE5 group really didn't resonate with me. So I was curious. I thought, well, let me go right to the source. So if someone like myself wants to go out underneath the stars with the intention of being a peaceful ambassador and with the intention of making contact with extraterrestrial beings, what is it that you recommend that someone like I do in regards to meditation, intention? Stephen Greer uses certain tones. I also am curious on whether or not I would benefit by creating an altar. And I'm getting the impression it's really about personal preference, but I was hoping that you might be able to share with me and whoever else is interested in this topic, something that we may do out underneath the stars in order to make contact or vector in extraterrestrial beings. Thank you so much. Good day.
There are many things you can do, but again, I recommend that you do it in your own way, whatever you're attracted to do. You could hum, you could ohm, you could sing, you could recite poetry. Whatever it is you're attracted to do is what you need to do. Follow your passion. Follow the guidance of your higher mind by following your passion. It's that simple. Don't make it overcomplicated.
Good day, Bashar.
Good day.
You can hear me okay, great. Do you say good day on your planet? Is that just something Earth people do?
It is a translation of our greeting.
Oh, interesting. So you guys greet each other just like us?
Well, not exactly. It's a translation. Ours happens all completely telepathically. But right. It's a good translation. It's a good translation. It's a sufficient translation into your language.
Right, but there's a commonality that we greet each other. We don't just start talking.
Yes, in a sense, there is always some sort of indication that you are being contacted or connected to something. Yes.
Oh,
it's like the idea of calling out in some way, shape, or form to allow a certain alignment to happen, to know that you are being connected with as an individual. So on your planet, good day will do.
Lovely. And are you only able to connect with me through my voice, or is there some other way that you're reading me?
I am reading energy patterns that come to us as a form of language, of shapes, colors, sizes, vibrations, frequencies, so on and so forth.
When I'm silent, are you able to still read those, or do I have to speak for you to be able to line up with those?
We can still read the silence, but the idea is that when you speak, an intention is formed that changes the pattern dramatically and thus allows us an indication of where it is you're going.
Well, thank you for being here and talking with us. We all appreciate this. I appreciate this. Thank you.
As we appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Great. This is fun. This is great. Do I have a more direct line of communication with my higher mind right now talking with you?
Yes, because we represent your higher mind. It's like you're talking with your higher mind by using us as a mask, as an excuse, as a reason to have easier communication with your higher mind.
Okay, so can you help me understand the energy? Because I kind of feel like telling my higher mind to kiss my ass for some reason. I don't know why, but I just feel like being cheeky and just kind of telling it off and kind of pissed off at it. What would be the reason for that? What's the energy behind those feelings I'm having?
Well, you might be assuming that the higher mind does things it doesn't actually do.
Yeah.
You might be more upset with your physical mind and the belief system embedded within it.
I think
the higher mind, The higher mind only feeds the energy, only sends the energy that makes you aware of what's going on in the physical mind. It's an illuminator. It's not a causation.
Thank you. It's an illuminator. All the time?
All the time.
Wow, that's a good insight. Is there, so I was going to ask you, is there some advice my higher mind could share, with this direct line of communication, perhaps a stumbling block?
Yes, well, again, first and foremost, remember that the higher mind speaks in energy terms, and therefore the physical mind's translation, the physical body's translation of those energy messages is the idea of passion. That's how you interpret messages from the higher mind telling you who you actually are and how you need to act and what path you can walk. The idea of the belief systems within the physical mind can counter that, and that may be what you're upset about.
Lovely. Thank you. Okay, so there's a teaching on this planet by a number of authors that sort of talk about how to deliberately create your reality. And the technique that they generally agree on is that you're going to impress your subconscious mind using your imaginations and your emotions, sort of vividly imagine the reality you wish to participate in.
Yes.
And particularly right before you go to sleep in the hypnotic state.
Yes.
Can you talk about that? Because I don't hear that from you or...
Yes, we have talked about that, but we usually use the terminology of visualization to refer to what's happening there energetically. The idea is it's all well and good to do it that way, but the important difference in what we're telling you is that as soon as you get to the point where you have an idealized picture of what you can imagine with your physical mind is the highest representation of the outcome that gets you really excited, then you drop the picture and keep the excitement by making a space for what the higher mind actually needs to bring you, because your physical mind may not necessarily have an accurate portrayal of what the best outcome could possibly actually look like.
You're dropping the insistence, but you're also initiating a particular state of being. That
exactly.
Is deliberate creation. Okay.
Exactly. So it's the state of being that's important in doing that, not the picture, except for the fact that the picture is your symbol, your representation of what gets you into that state, so that when you then stop insisting on that particular outcome, then you make room for whatever the outcome actually needs to look like.
Thank you.
Yes.
Is the Bible a literal story of historical events and facts?
Well, not literal, in many cases symbolic, but it is representative of some history, although there's a lot of changes and interpretations that have been posed upon it.
I feel like, I feel like most people interpret the Bible on this planet more literally, and yet it's actually meant to be more of a metaphor or allegory. Is it? Would you say that's accurate?
Some things are representative of actual historical events that may sound allegorical. Some things are really just metaphorical. But again, do remember that even the people that say they take the Bible literally don't take all of it literally.
Okay.
Because again, if they did, they would be doing things that your society frowns upon now.
Interesting. How important is it that I participate in some of the contact supporting events, like putting a picture in my window to help acclimate with the idea of an alien? How important is that for me to actually participate in that stuff versus if I don't, in order to actually get to participate in that reality, like I'm trying to ask, if I don't bother with it, am I going to miss out on, be able to have that ET contact and ride in a spaceship? Or is that sort of thing just like a major theme that is my destiny, that I'm not going to miss it?
It's a permission slip that will work for many people. The only way you'll really miss out on it is being worried that you'll miss out on it.
Lovely. So let's talk about importance. Certain people, okay, so my question is it more important, say, to help feed the homeless versus play a video game? Or, there's other examples where people think they're so important when they're making lots of money, and then a little kid who's maybe playing outside feels that's very important to him. How do you gauge importance?
Again, it depends upon whether you're being honest and in alignment and true with the idea of what you're truly passionate about, and knowing that when you actually act upon your true passion, you will also be being in service to others. It will guide you in a way that will allow that to be obvious.
Well, now you're making it sound like being in service to others is more important.
It is what happens naturally when you act on your passion. Because being in your passion is being true to yourself. And that's the most important thing. Because it allows everything else to happen that needs to happen synchronistically.
I wish I had more questions. You've answered them all. It's just so lovely to spend this time with you. Thank you.
Our pleasure, our passion, and our unconditional love to you as well. Good day. Ave.
I've been connected with my oversoul. And how can I ask my oversoul questions?
There is no way you can be disconnected from your oversoul because you're an extension of it. So you know you are connected if you simply understand how things work. Everything is one thing. Even if you create what appears to be a differentiation, an extension, a so-called separation, the word separation is only a separation of experience, of perspective. It's not literally a mechanical separation. There's no such thing. You can't be separated from existence. And the oversoul is part of existence, and so are you. So you are connected by the description and definition of how existence is structured, how it works, how it exists. How you can feel like there's communication coming through, again, is follow the formula and trust that the synchronicities that pop up in your life that you become more aware of are not only coming from the oversoul, but from the soul, from the higher mind, from spirit guides. But there is really no need to absolutely differentiate where it's coming from. In some senses, that can actually get in your way and prevent you from simply receiving the guidance, no matter where it's coming from. So it's not that important to always know where it's coming from. And if it is important, then something in the synchronicity will show you where it's coming from.
Okay, and do we exist independently when we pass, or do we get absorbed into the oversoul?
Everything exists simultaneously. And the idea is that if you allow your consciousness to rise to the level of the oversoul, you will experience yourself as the oversoul. Absorption doesn't mean you lose anything. It means you still retain the unique identity that you are, and therefore experience things from that level. In the same way that as you became an adult, you didn't lose the experiences you experienced when you were a child. You don't necessarily consider yourself a child anymore, but it's not like the child experiences have disappeared, have gone away. You can still relate to them. You can still call upon them if you need to. You can still talk about them. It's just that you're not coming from that level anymore. So the child experiences, while on one hand you could say have been absorbed into your adulthood, it's not like the child is gone. It's still there. It's still a part of you. It still exists on its own right, and you can tap into it and you can call upon it. But the idea is that you're simply now coming from the adult level in the same way that you would now come from the oversoul level without losing the individual personality, because now that's part of the oversoul and it can call on it or refer to it or tap into it anytime it wishes. It's just that for the most part, you're now coming from the higher level as you.
And recently, this person has been reading The Law of One by Ra, and to their understanding, they reference the dimensional progressions that happen from second to eighth densities of vibration. How, if at all, does this reflect what you are speaking of in terms of the oversoul? Are they mirrored concepts, divergent ones, or something else?
It's just another way of expressing the same ideas. There are different levels of consciousness that exist on different density levels, different frequency levels, which is the same thing as saying density. And therefore, it's just another way of expressing a certain limited hierarchical way of looking at what is relevant for your particular reality. As we have said in a past transmission, the 9 levels of consciousness is sort of similar to the idea of what the Law of One is talking about when it talks about 8 different density levels. So the idea is simply another way to frame that there are different frequencies that represent different levels of awareness, different experiences and expressions of consciousness, It's just another way of saying the same basic thing, but maybe with a little bit of emphasis on a certain direction because of perhaps the way the information needed to be delivered by that entity to the people that were listening to that entity, or the way a question was asked may require a slight differentiation in the way the information is delivered, but fundamentally it's the same concept.
Okay. This person was diagnosed with ALS and wonders, when they die, will the formula still apply, or is it just for humans on Earth?
Aspects of the idea of the formula will still apply, because you can still follow your passion even when you're a spirit. And in fact, in a sense, it becomes more self-evident that that's your nature to do so. So aspects of it will still apply, and you will understand that it applies in the way that is now relevant for you as a spirit. You don't necessarily have to do all of the formula in the same way you did it as a physical experiential being, but you will do your version of it as a spirit. Because it's not like you have to dig into belief systems anymore in the same way. All your belief systems are transparent and immediately apparent and relevant to you, but in a different kind of form of awareness. It's more about simply knowing yourself, knowing what is relevant for you. It's not that you have to dip into a subconscious or an unconscious to reveal belief systems anymore as a spirit, because everything is right there in front of your face, so to speak. So some aspects of the formula will be relevant for spirit, and some aspects are only relevant for your physical reality experience.
And where do innovative ideas come from?
All that is. But they filter down in different ways through different translations into the different levels of consciousness, of oversoul and soul and higher mind and so forth. As we have said, it's more about the idea, as far as the physical perspective is concerned, that the higher mind conceives, so you could say that is the inspiration. After all, inspiration is referring to spirit, non-physical reality. So it is everywhere at once, but it filters through, it translates through the higher mind. Then the physical brain is the receiver, and then the physical mind is the perceiver. Now, that doesn't mean that the physical mind doesn't have its ability to receive it and act upon it creatively. It can certainly take what it receives and perceives in many creative directions. But the idea is that the physical mind is therefore, shall we say, manipulating and making malleable what it is that has been conceived by the higher mind and received by the brain, and it then is allowed by the physical mind to be perceived in whatever way the physical mind feels is its creative ability to arrange it in a way that works for what's relevant for the physical mind. So creativity exists on every level, and in some sense, inspiration exists on every level. But the overall very large generalized idea is that inspiration comes from the higher level down through to the physical level, which still has the ability to be inspired, to be creative in how it represents and how it expresses and how it acts upon what it has received from the higher mind.
Okay. You said in a recent transmission that all death is suicide, because mostly we have already determined the window of our lifetime from spirit.
Yes.
Does this mean that people who commit suicide would have died anyway, around the same time, or from some other cause if they had made that particular choice? Or are the lifespans that are chosen in spirit actually cut short if someone chooses to commit suicide?
It depends upon the person, it depends upon the theme, and it depends upon the methodology in terms of the belief systems and energy states that surround what you perceive to be suicide. So there can be exceptions. In general, the way most suicides occur in your collective society is a cutting short of an agreement. Therefore, the individual, once in spirit, may realize that and may wish to continue the theme in some way, shape, or form, whether physically or non-physically, to complete the theme, to complete the agreement. Because it may have been made from the misunderstanding or lack of understanding that they had more choices than they thought they had to continue the life and finish out the agreements that they chose to begin with. So by cutting themselves short, they may continue in some way, shape, or form. But nevertheless, the idea of simply saying all death is suicide is a generalized recognition that in general, by letting it happen naturally, by letting it unfold naturally, you do generally allow a window of timing to occur. But it can be very specific or it can be very random, so to speak. So just as there have been individuals in your society that have said, I'm going to die precisely at 10:27 on Tuesday morning, and then they do, obviously they simply became aware of the fact that they had, for some reason, chosen to have a very specific range of time for their lifespan. Others may say, well, I'll choose to go out by some particular quick or slow methodology when it generally suits the idea that I have completed my theme, but there's no hurry to it. So maybe they will be taken out by what you typically call an accident or a disease or something along that line. Others may simply say, you know, I'll have the general idea of having a randomly chosen death. It's like an analogy of your roulette wheel where they will allow the wheel to spin and they will allow the ball to go around and around and around. And there may be any number of ways that they could allow themselves to pass into spirit, but they will accept wherever the ball falls randomly by all the opportunities that spin past until it slows down and the ball finds its niche, and they will simply accept that as the proper timing for their death. However, in this lifetime, there is also a way to change your theme once one theme is finished, and you may extend the lifespan sometimes to be able to afford the opportunity to explore a different theme. Those kinds of choices are now available, but they are also most likely made to begin with in spirit, saying, all right, well, when I'm done with one theme, I'll hang around and see if I can receive another theme to explore and sort of get a 2-for-1 in a physical lifetime. There are any number of these kinds of choices that can be made from the spirit and even from the idea of the physical personality if it recognizes consciously that it is aware of what theme it has been exploring and is aware that there may be some benefit to exploring a different theme.